Hi, Abe.
Oh, Mario, Gemar Chasima Tova.
The same to you. How was your yontif?
I don't know. We'll find out over the next year. We'll find out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You guys are okay?
Yeah, thank God. Thank God.
Good.
One down and three more to go, right?
Absolutely. Where are we at?
103 in the middle, from the middle down. 103.82.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
Good morning.
Ari.
Gemar Chasima Tova to you.
Markel Simatova. We are on Kuf Gimel 103. Maybe Ahmad Aleph, about halfway down. Hachamai. We talked about that if you have negotiated to buy a base core offer, which is 75,000 square amas of a field, and we talked about if in that field there were crevices or rocks, either 10 tfachim high or not 10 tfachim high. So the ones that are 10 tfachim, either deep or high, are not measured with it. What about hacha when it comes to not hegdish, but buying and selling? Where we said that when the crevices are 10 tfachim deep, you don't measure, those are excluded from the measurement of the 75,000 square meters because you can't plant there. My. Is it only when the crevices are full of water that it's not measured with the rest of the land? So even if the crevices are empty, they're not full of water. If the crevices are 10 tfachim deep, you don't measure it when you're measuring the 75,000 square meters. My timer. Ein Adam roitz shyitin mas v'makam echad. V'yerol k'shnayim shloshim makamis. A person doesn't want to give his money. He wants to give it, he's buying one piece of land and not multiple pieces of land. And, therefore, if there are boulders or crevices, it looks like he divides that up. So we don't measure those obstacles the whole field. Harold, we're on Kuf Gimel Amid Aleph, where we left off about halfway down. Maski Fla Ravina. V'hadumi Desloim Ketani. The Mishnah mentioned crevices along with boulders. And I thought we learned Mas Sloim de Lav Ninu. The reason we don't include the boulders is because you can't plant there. Afhani Nami de Lav Nezrinu. But that's got to only if they're filled with water. But if they were not filled with water and then you could plant there, why are they excluded? So the Gemara says, Ki ktani dumi l'sloim is pachas mikan, is when it's less than 10 tfachim, when it's 9 tfachim. That we said, even though you cannot seed there because of the differences, it's not a smooth area, those things are measured with the 75,000 square meters. It's only when it's 10 tfachim that it's not measured. The Mishnah said, Pachos mikanim dorinimo, that if it's 9 tfachim or less, 10 tfachim or less, if it's less than 10 tfachim, either the crevices or the boulders, you do measure when the surveyor comes to measure the 75,000 square meters. Amar Yitzchak Troshim Sh'amar, these pieces of land that are measured, it has to be at least an area of planting base Arboa Kobin, at least 4 kavs of seed within the big base court. These areas that you can plant 4 kavs of seed has to be in an area b'chameshes kav. And Rav Chia bar Avram it doesn't have to be located in just a small area, even if it's spread out throughout the majority of the field, that'll work. So, boy, Rav Chia bar Avram. What about Reuben? These pieces of land, the Me'uta, is only in a minority of the field. And Me'utan and the good pieces of land, a few of them are Beruba Ma'u. Do we look at the minority, the miut of the Sadeh? And we say, well, a small amount of the field is full of good pieces of land. Or we look at the whole field. Teku. So we don't have an answer to that. Boy Rav Yirmiyah. What if the rocks, the boulders, is in the majority of the field, but kasher is like a ring, or kashura, the rocks are like in a straight line, or it's tadinin, like they're in corners, or derech hakalosom, or it's not a straight line, it's curved. So teku, again, we don't have an answer. Tana. Imaya Sela Yechidi was a single boulder. Afilu kolshu einim darimo. Doesn't make a difference how big it is. You don't measure, when you're measuring the 75,000 square meters, it's not measured with it. Imaya samach lemeitzer, if the boulder was next to the border, afilu kolshu einim dar. Also, no matter how big the boulder is, it's not measured when you measure the field. So, boy Rav Papa, mufsak offer bentai. Let's say it wasn't really touching directly the border, but there was some dirt in between. And we want to know, do you measure the boulder with the 75,000 square or not? So teku. Boy Ravashi. Offer milmata vitsun malamala. There is good dirt below the boulder. On top of the dirt is the boulder. And the thought is, well, maybe since there's good dirt, maybe we should measure this boulder with the field. Or the opposite, offer milmalavit sumamamata. There is good dirt on top of the boulder. Maybe you could plant on top of that, mau. So again, teku. So it's a suffix. So hamotzim mechaver, any suffix in mominus, we go after hamotzim mechaver lavarayu. Whoever has proof in terms of how they agreed whether you're going to cut, measure it or not measured. Any teku b'momoin is hamotzim mechaver lavarayu. The one who wants to get money has to bring firm and proof evidence. Now, the seller says, Beis kur ofrani moichelucha. Mida bechevel. I'm selling you 75,000 square amas, exactly measured by the rope. So we know the surveyors used to use ropes. George Washington, right? When he was a surveyor, and we have descriptions that he would use these kind of ropes that had specific measurements. That's how they were able to measure off certain dimensions of a field. So hiches kolshu yanake. So if the seller ended up selling less, even if it's a little bit, the seller has to reduce the price and give the buyer back money. And Hoyser Kol Shehu, if there was more land sold, so the buyer has to give it back. Yachzir. The Im Omar, but if the seller said that this base core hein choser hein yeser, you know, whether it's a little bit more, a little bit less, he didn't say b'mida. He said a little bit more, a little bit less. So afilu piches roiva l'sa, if there was a mistake of 1/24 in terms of the area, either more or less, higiu. The deal is a good deal because he said hein chaser hein yoser. Didn't say that, it has to be exact. So the shear is 1/24. If it was yoser mikan, if the mistake that was made was more than 1/24, so yaser cheshbon. So the buyer either has to return to the seller the extra land, or vice versa, he has to give him money back. Well, let's see. Ma'u machzor, what is the return? Mos. The buyer returns money. The imrotza, but if the seller wants machzor lo karka, if the seller wants to get some of the land back, you can take the land. Lama amru machzor lo mos. Why did we give an option that the buyer can pay extra money? It sort of strengthens the hand of the seller. He can demand more money. He's not forced to accept karka. Shemshire besod base tisha kabim by a field. If there was amount of field that you can sow 9 kavs of seed, or begin a base chatzi kav, or k'divrei kiva base rova, manzlos karka. So in those cases, he would get the land back. He can't demand money. And in the cases where we said that it was more than 1/24, and there's a return, lo es rova bilvadu maser ela kol hamoser. It's not just the 1/24, it's anything, even above that. Once he has to return everything. So, iboiluhu. So we asked the following theoretical question. Because we said, if you say mida bechevel, you have to return everything. And if you said hein chaser hein yoser, you get a little leeway. Iboiluhu. Base core, stomach. He didn't say bechevel, and he didn't say hein chaser hein yoser. He just said base core. My. What's the din? So the Gemara is going to try to deduce from our Berais, from our Mishnah. Toshma. Beis kor ofrani morchel chamida becheva. We're going to continue a little bit more in Kuf Dalid. We said pachas kol shu yinake. If there's not really any change, he can the deal goes through. But yeser kolshu, more than a kolshu yachsir, has to be returned. Well, but he said mida hastama. If he didn't say mida, it's gehein chaser and yeser dami, and therefore perhaps you're allowed a leeway. Well, ema seifa. Im omer lo hein chaser and yoser afilu pichas rav l'so iser rav l'so yigiyu. If it was less than the difference of 1/24, the deal goes through, implying hastama kamida v'chevel dami. It seems like otherwise it would be like you want to make the deal like the rope measurement. So it's a circular region. You can't learn from it. Okay, we'll stop here.
Okay.
Good. See you at 8.
Okay.
The Navi Shir tonight is 8. Tomorrow
Why was it 8? Why didn't we say 8:30?
Tonight?
Yeah, because of the fast coming out.
No, but the fast is over at 7:15.
Okay.
Let's learn at 8, otherwise it'll be too late.
Mhm.
Then tomorrow's daf will be at 8 o'clock.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Okay, shkoyach.
You
Have a good day, everybody.